A funny trend that was going around online last summer was people discussing their Roman empires. Women across the internet discovered that their boyfriends and husbands had a surprisingly intense fascination with the Roman Empire, with many of them claiming to think about the Romans on the daily. Soon, the trend evolved into everyone identifying their personal Roman Empire, a random fixation they think about far more often than the average person. For me, this was a no-brainer. The 1998 HBO hit TV series Sex and the City is my Roman Empire. No doubt, no question. Sex and the City truly changed my life. It seeps into every major idea I have, and I find the analysis and debates around the show to be endlessly interesting. I love the tone, characters, settings, costumes, and romances. I find it to be simultaneously relatable and aspirational. Like most other 20-something-year-old women born in suburbia who dreamt of moving to the big city, Sex and the City was of near biblical importance to me in high school. However, I think my appreciation of the show boils down to my opinion of its protagonist. It is my belief that Carrie Bradshaw is one of the greatest fictional female characters ever written. It genuinely upsets me that the current climate has soured on Carrie's character. As a serial lurker on the Sex and the City subreddit page, I've noticed that you can't go 3 posts without it becoming a full-on I hate Carrie fest. Today's audience, primarily women who watched the show for the first time years after it aired, seem to dislike everything about her. Her questionable fashion choices, her messy finances, her poor decisions as a friend, and her even worse ones with men. A character who was once an idealized, groundbreaking feminist icon, everybody wanted to be a Carrie at one point in time, has truly fallen from grace. I have seen her being named a villain, an antagonist, a bad friend, a narcissist, and an anti-hero. But to me, Carrie has always been one thing: honest. What I love about Carrie's portrayal is how brutally honest it is. She makes the same mistakes over and over again, and every time learns from them only to fall back into the same patterns. But isn't this exactly what real life is like? Most people repeat their mistakes, sometimes the same kind of mistake their whole lives. Real people aren't like a movie, where one dramatic event transforms you forever. You can't tie a person's experiences up into a little bow and say, I've learned my lesson and I'm changed now. Around 40% of first marriages end in divorce, but that number jumps to over 60% for second marriages. If people truly learned their lesson the first time, wouldn't second marriages have the better odds? Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. It's like a roller coaster, flipping back and forth and zigzagging, only to sometimes end up exactly where you started. Psychologist Wendy Wood, whose primary research focuses on the nature of habits and their influence on behavior, defines habits as cognitive associations that people learn through repeated experience. Each time a behavior is repeated in the same context, like time of day or location, for a reward, it's easier, more efficient, convenient, or feels good, connections form in memory. After enough repetition, the habitual response is automatically activated when placed in that context, making it easy to repeat what we have done in the past. What makes Carrie so compelling is she's a portrait of someone trying, failing, analyzing, and trying again. Carrie basically learns the same lesson every season, but each time it hits from a different angle and under different circumstances, forcing her to confront the same emotional truths over and over again. An analysis of Sex and the City and its protagonist will become a regular discussion here on the channel, and I wanted to start this series by focusing on Carrie's core problem. She doesn't understand love. More specifically, she doesn't understand the difference between love and limerence, a term coined by psychologist Dr. Dorothy Tennov in 1979 to describe a state of obsessive infatuation, fueled by uncertain reciprocation. This state is characterized by intrusive thoughts, emotional dependency, and the idealization of another person. Over 6 seasons, 2 movies, and 1 sequel series that will not be named, Carrie attempts to find true love. with varying degrees of success. In this video, we'll be focusing on how Carrie handles her core problem throughout season 1 and 2. We open Sex and the City's pilot with Carrie narrating a short story about a beautiful, smart, and successful English journalist who had just moved to New York City. The journalist meets the perfect guy and goes on the perfect first date. For a few fleeting weeks, it seems like the beginning of something real, until suddenly he cancels plans and never calls her again. Carrie's moral to this story? There is no more love in Manhattan. Welcome to the age of uninnocence. Nobody has breakfast at Tiffany's, nobody has affairs to remember. Instead, we have breakfast at 7 a.m. and affairs we try to forget as quickly as possible. Self-protection and closing the deal are paramount. This is the world we are dropped into. Carrie, Miranda, Samantha, and Charlotte, 4 30-something single women, navigating a city where emotional commitment has become a social faux pas. Throughout the pilot, Carrie, who's known for getting attached to the men she dates, attempts to have sex like a man, meaning without emotion or consequences. Carrie and her friends have experienced so many false starts and almost relationships that they have internalized an idea that men only want physical connection without emotional depth. In the pilot, Carrie poses a central question. Have women in New York given up on love and replaced it with power? New York in the 90s was a hedonistic playground fueled by Wall Street bonuses, Gucci by Tom Ford, dry martinis, and romantic cynicism. Relationships became another form of consumption. Fleeting, exciting, transactional. I hate it when you're the only single person at a dinner party and they all look at you like you're a loser, leper, whore. Season 1 of Sex and the City presents us with 2 options. A woman in her 30s can either be married and miserable or delusional and alone. Married people are seen as the enemy. They are always in boring, gray-washed clothing and cookie-cutter suburban homes. They are performative and uptight. They act as if they are living on autopilot. In episode 3, Carrie contemplates if she is the marrying type, and this is in part because she sees marriage in a negative light based on the people around her. Commitment for the sake of tradition scares her. She tries dating the marrying kind of guy, but we can tell that she doesn't have much attraction for him. In episode 5, New York presents Carrie with the opposite end of the spectrum, when we meet the fabulous citizen of the world, Amelita Amalfi, whose life is glamorous, fun, and full of shiny objects and beautiful men. The opposite of episode 3, Carrie contemplates a life of pleasure and luxury, but one without love. And it also doesn't feel right. Amelita's life lacks substance. Carrie wants passion and meaningful connections. But the world she lives in doesn't seem built to give her those things. How can she be confident in her decisions around love when no one in her life seems truly happy with their relationships or with being single?
You see that guy? He's the next Donald Trump, except he's younger and much better looking.
Mr. Big has it all. Money, power, connections, charisma, and social capital. In many ways, Big is not just a man. He is the personification of New York itself. Carrie is immediately drawn to him on the street and sees him as larger than life and majorly out of her league. She is nervous and clumsy only when he is around. And Carrie is always looking up to him, both physically and symbolically. At the end of the pilot, when Carrie tells Big about her having sex like a man experiment, he laughs and hints at the idea that he is really a romantic at the end of the day. Not even half a drop of him is the kind of guy that has sex and feels nothing. He offers her hope that love must still be alive in Manhattan if this man who represents Manhattan has felt it. Have you ever been in love? Abso-fucking-lutely. Einstein's law of relativity would have to be amended to include a special set of rules, those to explain the peculiar effects of infatuation. For Carrie, love is almost a mythos. On any given day, she oscillates between 2 extremes. Nihilism, convinced by her jaded friends and the questionable men of New York that love is dead or was never real to begin with, and idealism, believing that love is a mythical force brought on by the gravitational pull of two people destined to be together. These dueling beliefs define Carrie's worldview for the entire series. She's perpetually torn between being skeptical of every man's intentions and yearning for their affection. She has her guard walls up just for them to come crashing down. When we meet Carrie, she says that she has never been in love. She's had flings and boyfriends, but they clearly aren't the ideal she's been searching for. Her understanding of love comes only from secondhand sources: films, books, her column interviews, and her friends' stories. As a writer, Carrie sees life like little vignettes. She doesn't just experience her relationships, she narrativizes them. She's trying to make her life like a story. People on the internet would accuse her of having main character syndrome. She tries to make sense of her life by putting everything into words. One of the biggest character misconceptions that I see people talk about when it comes to Sex and the City is calling Charlotte a hopeless romantic, when in reality, she has a very pragmatic and strategic approach to romantic relationships. On my latest rewatch in preparation for this video, I couldn't get over how many times Charlotte talks about love as if it's a sport. She talks about finding a husband in the same way other people talk about applying to college or winning a race. Her opening line is, "You want to get these guys, you have to keep your mouth shut and play by the rules." Romanticism, the ideology that true romantics subscribe to, originated during the late 18th century cultural and artistic movement that emphasized emotional expression, individualism, imagination, and the glorification of subjective experience. Romantics are guided entirely by feelings and intuition. To a romantic, passion will outweigh reason every time. Carrie is our hopeless romantic. She steers her life according to what feels right in the moment. She talks about love as if it is a mystical, almost cosmic force that pushes and pulls her beyond logic or control. What romantics and Carrie get wrong is that in real life, this feeling is not actually a feeling of love. The sparks or butterflies a person gets at the beginning of a relationship or flirtation are often not feelings of potential love, like romanticism would have us believe, but are in fact feelings of a different biological phenomenon: limerence. Limerence is an involuntary interpersonal state that involves an acute longing for emotional reciprocation, obsessive-compulsive thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and emotional dependence on another person. Limerence is the feeling that makes people say, "I can't stop thinking about her," or "he's the center of my world." Or in Carrie's case, we have this physical, chemical kind of connection that is hard to shake. People experiencing limerence talk about their relationship like it's a drug, like they are intoxicated by a person. Before they started dating, Big and Carrie would run into each other everywhere. This is a common trope in romance media, that the two people who are destined to be together will always be in each other's orbit. And since Carrie is a romantic, she takes these little meetings as a sign that the universe is pushing her towards this man. And when they start dating, Carrie describes their initial honeymoon phase as, "The entire city has been magically reduced to two people, us." Her relationship is providing her with the highest of highs, but as we will see at the start of season 2, also the lowest of lows. Maybe all men are a drug. Sometimes they bring you down, but other times they get you so high. Carrie is an addict. She is literally addicted to cigarettes for the first 3 seasons of the show, but she also has an addictive personality in a city built to fuel our every craving. She shops for Manolos until her credit card is maxed out, drinks and parties until morning whenever something feels off, and she treats men like another drug in her rotation. After feeling rejected by Big after their first failed drinks thing, she rationalizes sleeping with a man in his 20s by saying, "I just needed something to take the edge off." Lust, like any vice, can be addictive, and limerence is often compared to drug use for how it affects our ability to think rationally. It brings waves of euphoria or despair, depending on whether the desire is reciprocated. Studies of the brain in early stages of romantic love show activity strikingly similar to that of addiction, with elevated dopamine levels and decreased impulse control. Carrie is completely obsessive. Once she gets something in her head, it is very hard for her to control herself. She spirals a number of times in season 1 alone. When she doesn't get her way and feels pushed around, she often gets angry, combative, and emotionally erratic. Carrie follows her heart, and rarely ever her head. She leads with her emotions and often loses control of them. I think one of the most obvious examples of obsessive behavior we see from Carrie is when Big mentions his ex-wife in the context of having a threesome. Carrie begins unraveling. She ends up stalking Big's ex-wife Barbara and literally having visual delusions about her. When she meets his ex for lunch, Carrie goes as far as to straighten her hair in an effort to look as composed and elegant as Barbara. In Carrie's mind, Barbara embodies what Big wants that Carrie can never be. Carrie suffers from a lot of insecurity during her season 1 relationship with Big, and it makes her disrespect her boundaries. After they unexpectedly have sex on the first date, in a voiceover, Carrie says that she will not be the first one to speak, but goes back on this boundary immediately because she is desperate for his reassurance after this moment of vulnerability. She disregards her own needs to not rock the boat with Big, but is unable to regulate herself and inevitably explodes. We need to have some empathy for season 1 Carrie. She is stuck in a city that, in the realm of love, feels hopeless. She's trying to define love in a place that doesn't know what it looks like anymore. She's in the throes of an insecure attachment with her dream man, and she is struggling with self-confidence. I think I'm in love with him, and I'm terrified he's gonna leave me because I'm not perfect. What if he never calls, and I pick up the New York Times to read he's married the perfect woman? A concern that turns out to be hauntingly accurate at the start of season 3. She loses herself for what she believes is true love. I'm not like me. I'm like sexy Carrie, casual Carrie. I even catch myself posing. And we should be proud of Carrie at the end of season 1, when she realizes that Big could never really love her in the way she needed to be loved, and breaks up with him. We feel like Carrie is progressing. She is going to look for a man who wants her to be more central in his life. Someone who can say for sure she is the one. Only this doesn't last super long. Miranda was a huge fan of the Yankees. I was a huge fan of being anywhere you could smoke and drink at 2 o'clock in the afternoon without judgment. We pick back up with Carrie in season 2, and she's going through her Bella and New Moon phase of the breakup with Big. She is sulking and depressive. Breaking up with Big broke her heart and her sense of identity. Carrie goes right back to her old coping mechanisms: smoking, drinking, and maxing out her credit cards. She's chasing distractions and trying to fill the void with anything external that might dull the pain. Her mental state mirrors the symptoms of limerence withdrawal, a painful and intense experience similar to addiction withdrawal, characterized by emotional and physical symptoms like irritability, depression, anxiety, and a deep sense of loss. Eventually, Carrie dips her toe back in the dating pool. In the Freak Show episode, she meets one of the most promising men the show has ever given her: handsome, kind, and emotionally available. But she ruins it before it even begins. A string of bad dates and the bitterness still simmering from Big have left her distrustful and closed off. She can't bring herself to believe in something good because she's been let down so many times in the past. Then we have 2 back-to-back low points for Carrie. She endures public embarrassment when her single and fabulous ? Cover story hits newsstands. Carrie has to confront how society really views single women in their 30s firsthand, and it's a traumatic experience. Followed up by another blow, the death of her friend Javier. When many people experience an emotional low, like leaving a funeral or going on a bunch of really bad dates, Their instinct might be to go deeper into the hole. I know for myself, when something bad happens in my life, it is really easy for me to slip back into self-destructive behaviors. In grief, Carrie's instinct is to reach for the familiar, so she calls Big and asks him to dinner. When in pain, our brain seeks comfort in what it already knows, even if what it knows has hurt us before. Freud describes this in his theory of repetition compulsion. People often recreate past experiences, hoping for a different outcome, only to repeat the same suffering. Carrie and Big are officially back together, but it takes Carrie some time to tell her close girlfriends. Part of her knows that there are still issues in this relationship, but she's decided to avoid them. Over the next few episodes, we see the emotional roller coaster that their relationship really is for Carrie. During the course of one episode, Carrie oscillates between pure bliss and pure anxiety. Big gives her a toothbrush at his place. Bliss. She gets jealous of other people's relationship. Panic. He agrees to go with her to a wedding. Bliss. But he hesitates to sign the wedding card. Panic. He leaves during her speech. Devastation. Watching her tiptoe around him is heartbreaking. She's walking on eggshells to ask for the bare minimum of a partnership, like going to a wedding or getting drinks with her and her friends. Limerence plays on our most exuberant emotions. It feeds on extremes, like emotional whiplash. Carrie and Big's second relationship is almost an exact copy and paste of their first. Same push and pull dynamic, same imbalance of power. Carrie believes that because they came back together, it must be for a reason. But when Miranda challenges Carrie to articulate what's actually changed in this new version of their relationship, Carrie can't name a single tangible thing. She can only describe a feeling. The scenes where Big invites Carrie to a friend's party in season 1, and then again in season 2, perfectly illustrate the continuity of their two relationships. These episodes are so similar that I often get them confused in my mind. In season 1, Carrie believed that her and Big were exclusive, but she finds out that he has been seeing other women. She gets angry at Big and storms out without actually explaining her issue. In season 2, Big hasn't said "I love you" back to Carrie, and seems to be embarrassed by her behavior at this Park Avenue event. She acts recklessly and storms out again. The surface level issues are different, but the root of each conflict is the same: a lack of communication, a fear of rejection, and a fear of never being enough. Did I ever really love Big, or was I addicted to the pain, the exquisite pain of wanting someone so unattainable? Just like in their first relationship, Carrie says goodbye to Big because he can't center her in his life. But unlike before, she seemed to realize this time that in some amount, love wasn't the emotion at play. It was another addiction that she needed to shake. Carrie starts the episode after their breakup, complaining about Big to all her friends and talking about how much better she is without him. What she's saying, the way she's talking, and even her voice inflection remind me a lot of her friend Susan Sheridan, after Susan decided to leave her emotionally abusive husband. Now, I'm not saying that Big abused Carrie. I don't think that at all. But I do think Carrie has some emotional trauma associated with their relationship. The F-Buddy episode's central theme is actually very similar to the central theme of this video, that people are more likely to make the same style of mistake over and over again, instead of learning from it and shifting their mentality. Carrie contemplates if she dates the same kind of guy over and over again, and if she and her friends are doomed to a never-ending cycle of similar relationships, similar guys, and similar problems. Then I had a thought. Maybe I didn't break Big. Maybe the problem was he couldn't break me. In Carrie's final monologue of the season, she reflects on whether she was trying to break Big or if Big was trying to break her and couldn't. She compares their relationship to that of Katie and Hubble in The Way We Were. Carrie sees herself as a Katie girl, a free spirit too passionate and opinionated for a man like Big, who, like Hubble, ultimately chooses comfort over chaos. Hubble can't handle a relationship with a strong-willed woman and ends up marrying a simple girl, someone easier to love and to manage. Honestly, I think Carrie is right. Big didn't want to change her into a simple girl, but he also couldn't fully commit to a Katie girl, because doing so would force him to confront aspects of himself he's not ready to change. A Katie girl would never come second to a man's job, ego, or whims. The show closes this chapter of their limerence-fueled love story on a cinematic note, which feels fitting, because limerence is cinema, all longing, illusion, and perfect lighting, while love is reality, messy, ordinary, but built to last. I understand why people find Carrie frustrating to watch. I get frustrated with her too. But I also understand how she finds herself in the situations she does. How can anyone be expected to be a perfect partner in a city that glorifies individualism, is full of emotionally unavailable people, and is constantly selling us a fantasy version of love? Carrie is set up for failure. She is shaped by insecurity, the imperfect people around her, and by a romantic myth that love should feel more like a movie than real life. By the end of season 2, Carrie has just enough self-awareness to see the cycle that she's trapped in, even if she's not ready to break it. She's learning, very slowly, that not all intensity is intimacy, and that not all chemistry is love. In the next video, we will be discussing Carrie's core problem throughout season 3 and 4, where, for the first time, she experiences a love that is not addictive, but calm and consistent. And instead of embracing it, she runs, because for Carrie, real love is terrifyingly unfamiliar.